I used to think that laughter was the foundation of a strong marriage. If a couple could joke with each other, pull silly pranks, and still end the day smiling, then surely their bond was unbreakable. But I eventually learned that not every joke is harmless. Some jokes cut deeper than you expect. Some leave wounds that don't heal. And some can shatter the very foundation of everything you believe to be true. Just a week ago, if someone had asked me, I would have said without hesitation that my wife, Emily, was my closest confidant, my partner in mischief. We had been married for 6 years, and although our life together wasn't flawless, I truly believed we were content. Emily had always been full of energy and playfulness. She was the kind of woman who'd swap my shampoo with mayonnaise just for a laugh or hide a fake spider in my shoe to watch me jump. I always went along with her antics, never letting it get under my skin. I thought it was just part of who we were, playful, lighthearted, always laughing. That was until last weekend changed everything. We had been invited to a friend's birthday celebration. It was supposed to be a low-key night out at a downtown bar. Emily had been buzzing with excitement, saying she had a surprise planned. I assumed it was just another one of her mischievous ideas. Maybe she'd hand out prank lottery tickets or stage a fake spill to startle someone. I wasn't worried. I thought it would be all in good fun. I couldn't have been more wrong. That evening Emily looked stunning. She wore a sleek black dress that accentuated her figure, and her blonde curls fell softly around her face. She had the kind of presence that turned heads the moment she entered a room. I felt proud to be the one standing beside her. We laughed, had a few drinks, and chatted with our friends. It all felt so effortless, like nothing could go wrong. Then, just as midnight approached, she leaned close to me and whispered, asking if I was ready for the surprise. I brushed it off, thinking it was one of her usual setups. She tapped her glass, drawing everyone's attention. With a wide smile, she announced that she had a confession to make. The chatter around us faded into silence as everyone turned to face her. A wave of anxiety rolled through me. She reached out and gave my hand a squeeze, then looked back at the crowd and said she had done something wild, but she promised it would be worth it. Her eyes sparkled as she asked if anyone wanted to see the video. The crowd responded with laughter and cheers. Phones were raised, ready to capture whatever she had planned. My chest tightened. I had no idea what was coming. A prank? A joke? Something embarrassing but harmless? Before I could ask, Emily grabbed the TV remote and turned to the screen mounted behind the bar. "Just watch," she said with a wink. The screen lit up, and in that instant everything changed. I stood there, completely still, trying to process what was happening. The people around us were a mix of amused and confused, pulling out their phones, some laughing already. I scanned the room, hoping someone else looked as lost as I felt. A few friends wore big smiles, clearly expecting something hilarious. Others looked hesitant, unsure whether to laugh or stay quiet. Emily's voice rang out again as she turned back to the screen, still holding the remote. "Okay, everyone, I've got something really fun to share." Her tone was filled with excitement. I felt her hand still holding mine, giving it another squeeze, like this was some kind of inside joke between us. But I wasn't in on it. That's when I knew something was off. The video began to play. At first, it was just a dimly lit hotel room with a bottle of champagne on the nightstand. Nothing too unusual until the camera panned. And then my heart dropped. There was Emily, seated on the bed, her blonde hair falling loosely over her shoulders, a glass of champagne in her hand, smiling toward the camera. The setting was far too personal to be anything casual or innocent. The energy in the room shifted. Laughter faded and was replaced by whispers and uncomfortable glances. Even the bartender stopped what he was doing and stared at the screen. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. I turned to Emily, asking in a shaky voice what this was all about. She just grinned and told me to wait, it was going to be funny. I turned back just as a tall man entered the frame. He wore a button-up shirt and approached Emily with his back to the camera. She looked up at him with that familiar playful expression and whispered something I couldn't make out. Around us, the silence was heavy. Someone nearby mumbled, "Is this real?" I clenched my fists as Emily turned to me again, still smiling like it was just a harmless joke. I felt like the floor was moving under my feet. On the screen, Emily clinked glasses with the man, tilting her head flirtatiously. Then the video abruptly cut to black. The silence was absolute. For a second, it felt like time had stopped. Then someone nervously chuckled and broke the silence with a question, "What was that?" Finally, Emily spoke, her voice light and amused. "Come on, you guys. It was just a prank." She turned toward me, laughing like she'd just pulled off the world's greatest joke. "Babe, the look on your face was priceless." I didn't laugh. I just stared at her, completely frozen. A prank? That was her excuse? I glanced back at the screen, half expecting the video to replay, half hoping for some sort of clarification to appear. But nothing came. Just an empty black screen and the oppressive silence of everyone watching me. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. "Emily," I said carefully, forcing my voice to stay calm, "please tell me that was fake." She rolled her eyes, giving my arm a playful swat. "Obviously. Come on, you think I'd actually do something like that?" she said with another chuckle as though the whole thing was completely ridiculous. It was all staged. Just a joke. I wanted to see everyone's reaction. A joke. She genuinely thought this was funny. But I couldn't move. My body refused to react, my brain struggling to wrap itself around what she was saying. Nothing about it felt like a joke. "That wasn't funny," someone murmured from the crowd behind us. Emily's smile wavered. "Oh, come on, it's just a prank." I was testing how realistic I could make it. No one seriously thought it was real, right? She looked around the room, expecting nods or laughter. Instead, there was a heavy silence. Then the words that shattered what little defense I had left. "I mean, it looked real." And with that, the damage was done. Even if everything had been staged, even if it was meant as some sort of twisted joke, she had planted something dangerous in everyone's mind. That scene, her in a hotel room looking at another man the way she used to look at me, it was burned into my memory. I stepped backward, shaking my head. "I need some air." Emily frowned. "Wait, babe, don't." I didn't let her finish. I turned and left the bar without another word. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but it didn't clear my head. My thoughts kept circling, stuck in the same loop. If this was all just a prank, then why did it feel like something had ended? I walked without direction, each breath coming out in uneven bursts. I didn't know how long I'd been wandering or even where I was headed. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in that bar. The entire scene kept replaying in my head, Emily's laughter, the smug grin on her face like she'd just accomplished something impressive, the way our friends' expressions shifted from amusement to discomfort. And then that one haunting voice, it looked real. That's what clung to me. Whether Emily had actually cheated or not didn't matter. Whether that man had been an actor or the champagne had never been opened, none of it mattered. What did was the doubt she had introduced. That picture of her whispering to someone else in a place meant for intimacy was something I'd never be able to unsee. And somehow to her, that was funny. Eventually, I stopped walking and leaned against a streetlight, trying to steady my breath. I pulled out my phone and saw a long string of messages from Emily. "Emily, babe, where are you?" "Emily, seriously, come back inside." "Emily, oh my God, are you really doing this?" "Emily, you're mad over a joke?" "Emily, stop being so dramatic." "Emily, fine. Let me know when you're done sulking." I stared at the screen, unsure of what to do. Part of me wanted to call her, to demand an explanation, to make her understand the depth of what she'd done. But another part, a louder part, knew it was pointless. She didn't get it. She never had. I needed to talk to someone who might actually understand. Without much thought, I scrolled through my contacts and dialed the one person who might shed light on what had just happened. Mark answered on the second ring, his voice cautious. "Hey, man. I didn't waste time. Tell me the truth. Did Emily really fake that video?" There was a pause. Too long. My stomach dropped. "Mark," I said firmly, my tone low and serious, "don't lie to me." He exhaled audibly. "Look, I don't know what she told you, but yeah. It was fake." I clenched my jaw. "You swear?" "Yes," he replied quickly. "Nothing actually happened. She just wanted to make it look convincing. Said it was supposed to be an experiment. She wanted to see how people would react." "An experiment?" My head reeled. Mark sighed. "I told her it was a terrible idea. I knew you'd take it badly. But she insisted it was all in good fun, said you'd laugh about it later." I gave a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah. Hilarious. I'm serious. It was all her idea." I barely agreed to help. And I believed him. But believing him didn't bring any comfort. If anything, it made it worse. Because that meant Emily had planned every step. She had arranged the hotel room, chosen the lighting, directed the scene. She had deliberately made it believable. And not once had she considered how it might break me. I let out a long, slow breath. "Thanks for telling me." "You okay?" Mark asked, uncertainty in his voice. I nearly laughed out loud. Not even remotely. I ended the call before he could get another word in. For a few seconds I just stood there, phone still in hand, as the truth hit me like a weight I couldn't shake off. This wasn't some harmless prank taken a bit too far. No, it was a window into who Emily truly was. And from that moment on, I knew I would never be able to see her in the same light again. Under the faint glow of a flickering street lamp, I remained motionless, my phone gripped tightly, thoughts spiraling. Mark had verified it, the video had been faked. There was no cheating, no betrayal, just a calculated performance designed to get a reaction out of me. But that didn't make it any better. In fact, in many ways, it made everything feel even worse. I had hoped, however faintly, that maybe Emily had gotten caught up in the moment. That maybe she'd acted recklessly, not considering the ripple effects. But no. This had been deliberate. She had planned it from the beginning. And despite knowing the impact it might have, she had gone through with it anyway. Eventually, I had to face the reality I couldn't keep roaming the city forever. At some point, I had to go home. Still, the idea of confronting her again, of hearing her brush off my feelings like they were nothing, of seeing that smug expression like I was being unreasonable, it made my stomach turn. But I needed closure. So, I headed back. When I stepped into the apartment, Emily was on the couch, thumbing through her phone. The second she saw me, her look shifted from indifferent to irritated. She stood and said, "I was just about to call you. Are you done with your little sulk?" The ease with which she dismissed my emotions lit another fuse inside me. "Emily," I said slowly, struggling to stay calm, "do you even understand what you've done?" She let out a scoff. "Seriously? Are we still going on about this?" I clenched my jaw, trying to stay composed. "Yes, because to me, this isn't just some joke." Rolling her eyes, she muttered, "Okay, all right. You're mad. I get it. But why are you acting like this is some kind of catastrophe?" I stared at her. "Because you turned our marriage into a joke. You deliberately embarrassed me in front of all our friends. And you seem to enjoy it." Crossing her arms, she retorted, "I didn't enjoy it. I just thought it would be funny. You used to laugh at my jokes, remember? What changed?" I let out a bitter laugh. "What changed? You went from planting fake spiders to staging a fake affair in front of everyone we know. That's what changed." Emily groaned, rubbing her face in frustration. "You're making such a big deal out of nothing. It's not like I actually cheated or anything." I took a breath, trying to keep my voice even. "That's not the point. The fact that you wanted people to believe you did, that's what matters." She shook her head, clearly annoyed. "If you weren't so insecure, none of this would even be a problem." I froze. She seemed to realize she'd gone too far, quickly adding, "I didn't mean it like that. But I cut her off, voice soft but firm. "No. You meant exactly that." A heavy silence filled the space between us. For the first time, I wasn't just angry. I was exhausted. Exhausted from constantly having to defend how I felt. Exhausted from being made to feel like my reactions were irrational. Tired of living with someone who seemed to enjoy testing my limits just to see when I'd finally break. Running a hand down my face, I exhaled slowly. "I need some space." Emily frowned. "Oh, come on. You're not actually serious, are you?" "I'm not leaving for good," I said, grabbing my keys. "But I'm not staying here tonight. I need some air." Her arms fell to her sides, and for once I saw something in her expression that wasn't amusement or annoyance. I saw fear. But I didn't let that stop me. I walked out. I didn't go far. Just enough to put some distance between us so I could think clearly without her minimizing words echoing in my head. I parked in a quiet lot by the waterfront, the gentle sound of waves the only thing breaking the silence. Leaning back in my seat, I gripped the steering wheel, trying to process it all. Emily's response back at the apartment kept replaying in my mind. There had been no apology. No real attempt to understand where I was coming from. Just more of the same dismissive attitude, as if my hurt was nothing but an inconvenience. And the worst part? This wasn't new. I had spent years ignoring the red flags, brushing off her taunts as harmless quirks of her personality. I told myself her teasing in front of others was all in good fun, that when she waved away my discomfort it didn't really mean anything. But now sitting alone, it was painfully clear it hadn't been harmless. Not if I was here questioning whether my own wife even respected me. I sighed and picked up my phone. One unread message. It was from Rachel. "Hey. I don't know what happened, but if you need to talk, I'm here." I hesitated briefly, then hit call. She answered almost instantly. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "What's going on?" I exhaled slowly. "It's Emily. She pulled this prank tonight, and I honestly don't even know how to feel about it." I told her everything. The whole thing, the fake video, Emily's laughter, the way she wouldn't even acknowledge why it had cut so deep, had been gnawing at me. As I talked, Rachel remained quiet, though I could feel her anger growing with every word I spoke. When I finally finished, she let out a sharp exhale. "Wow. That's seriously on another level," she said, her tone tight with disbelief. I rubbed a hand across my face, drained. "Yeah." There was a pause before she continued, her voice lower now. "Listen, I know this might not be what you want to hear, but none of this is exactly new. Emily's been acting like this for a long time, just not quite this extreme." I frowned, confusion pulling at me. "What do you mean by that?" She hesitated, clearly weighing her words. I never wanted to interfere in your relationship, but I've seen the way she treats you. The way she puts you down in public, always needing to be the one getting all the attention. And every time you push back, she turns it around like you're the one causing problems. That's not healthy. It's definitely not love. A lump formed in my throat as I tried to swallow the weight of her words. You think she hurt me on purpose? Rachel sighed, her voice softer now. I can't say for sure, but I do think she liked seeing how far she could go. That's just as damaging. Leaning back in my seat, I stared up at the car ceiling. Her words hit a nerve I had been trying hard to ignore. She was right. Emily had always been testing boundaries, seeing just how much I would tolerate before pushing back. And this time she had gone too far. Rachel's tone gentled. So what are you going to do now? I let out a slow breath. I don't know, but I can't act like none of this ever happened. For the first time since I'd stormed out of that bar, something in me clicked into place. I realized I wasn't being dramatic. I wasn't imagining things. And I definitely wasn't going to let Emily twist the truth again. I stayed in the car for what felt like an eternity, my eyes locked on the dashboard as I processed everything Rachel had said. She had confirmed something I'd been too scared to admit to myself. This wasn't just about one incident, it was about years of behavior. Emily had constantly been crossing lines just to see when I'd finally say enough. And now there were no excuses left to lean on. Eventually, I made my way back to the apartment. I had no idea how long I'd been gone. The streets were quiet and dimly lit, the soft glow of city lights stretching shadows across the pavement. My stomach turned as I stepped out of the car. I knew deep down that things between Emily and me had shifted forever. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, half expecting her to already be asleep. But she was still awake, curled up on the couch, phone in hand. When she spotted me, she straightened, her expression unreadable. You're back, she said. I gave a brief nod, shutting the door behind me. Silence stretched between us until she broke it. Are you done being mad now? Her casual tone made my chest tighten. She still didn't see it. She didn't get how serious this was. I took a slow, calming breath. Emily, do you even understand why I walked out? She rolled her eyes. Because you totally blew a harmless joke out of proportion? I clenched my jaw, forcing down the surge of anger. No. I left because what you did wasn't a joke. It was humiliating. It made me question whether I can even trust you. She scoffed, clearly defensive. Trust me? Seriously? You know that video wasn't real. Nothing happened. That's not the point. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I ran my fingers through my hair, trying to steady my nerves. You wanted everyone to believe it was real. You wanted to get a reaction out of me. That's not a prank, that's taking our relationship and turning it into a game. She folded her arms across her chest, her irritation obvious. Come on. If the situation were reversed, I wouldn't have acted like this. I let out a hollow laugh. Really? So if I made a fake video of me in a hotel with another woman, played it for all our friends, then told you to just relax, you'd be fine with that? She didn't respond right away. That moment of hesitation said more than words ever could. I shook my head. You wouldn't be okay. You'd be hurt. You'd be furious. But when it's me, I'm just supposed to laugh it off. Emily let out an exaggerated sigh, as if I were being difficult on purpose. Okay, maybe I didn't think the whole thing through. But are you seriously going to keep bringing this up forever? I swallowed, my voice quieter now. I don't want to hold it over you. I just want to know that you care about how it made me feel. She shifted uncomfortably, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. Of course I care. Then just say you're sorry. She let out a scoff. Oh my God. Are we seriously doing this right now? You know I never meant to hurt you. I nodded slowly, my chest heavy with disappointment. That's what I thought. Without another word, I turned and headed toward the bedroom, not trusting myself to say anything more. Where are you going? She called after me, her voice suddenly sharper. To bed. She let out a huff. So that's it? You're just going to stay mad forever? I didn't respond. Not because I was still angry, but because I was finished. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my thoughts moving too fast to allow any rest. Emily was in the next room, likely scrolling on her phone as if nothing had happened, probably expecting me to just move on like I always did. But this time felt different. I wasn't just frustrated or angry. I was completely worn out. For the first time, I wasn't trying to fix things or mentally bend over backwards, convincing myself that Emily didn't intend to hurt me. I was finally seeing the truth clearly. And now that I couldn't unsee it. As the first light of dawn filtered through the blinds, I realized I couldn't avoid this any longer. I needed clarity. But more than that, I had to decide whether there was anything left in this marriage worth holding on to. I got up and walked into the living room. Emily was still lying on the couch, her phone resting on her chest, clearly having fallen asleep there. When I stepped closer, she stirred and looked up at me. "You're up early," she mumbled while stretching, then squinted. "Wait, did you sleep at all?" I shook my head. "We need to talk." She groaned and rubbed her forehead. "Are we seriously still on this?" I didn't respond to that. "Why did you do it?" I asked calmly. Emily let out a sigh. "Do what exactly?" I clenched my jaw, struggling to keep composed. "Why did you make that video? What made you think it was funny?" Rolling her eyes, she said, "I've already explained. It was just meant to be a harmless prank. Something spontaneous to stir things up a little." "To stir what up?" I asked, genuinely trying to understand. "Were things so dull for you? Were you just looking to provoke a reaction from me?" She paused for a moment, shifting uncomfortably. "I mean, yeah, kind of." My stomach turned. "So you actually wanted to upset me?" With a wave of her hand, Emily brushed it off. "Not upset exactly. I just thought, I don't know. I figured it'd shake things out of the monotony. You're always so serious. I thought something surprising might break the routine." I stared at her. "The routine, huh?" She exhaled sharply. "Oh, come on, you know what I'm saying. Every relationship gets dull after a while. I just wanted to do something unexpected. Something we could eventually laugh about." I took a slow breath, the truth settling in. "You could have just talked to me, Emily. You could have told me how you were feeling. But instead, you turned it into a twisted game just to see if you could rattle me." Her face tensed. "So now I'm the villain in all this? You're acting like I cheated or something, and I didn't even come close to that." I shook my head. "It's not about betrayal in that sense. It's about how you thought publicly embarrassing me would somehow make things better." She crossed her arms. "Okay, so what do you want? An apology?" I looked at her carefully, trying to see if there was any genuine regret. "Do you believe you owe me one?" She let out an exaggerated sigh. "If that's what it takes to make you feel better, fine. I'm sorry. Is that what you wanted?" The apology felt empty, like it had been dragged out of her. She wasn't apologizing for what she had done. She was apologizing because I hadn't let it slide. And at that moment, it hit me like a wave. This wasn't something I could repair. I had spent so many years believing that if I just explained my emotions better, Emily would eventually come around. But she never truly wanted to understand. She didn't think her behavior was wrong. She never had. I nodded slowly. "Okay." Emily frowned. "Okay? What does that mean?" I let out a breath. "It means I understand now." Her expression shifted slightly. "Wait. Understand what?" I didn't say anything more. Instead, I turned and walked back into the bedroom. I had already made up my mind. Standing in front of the open closet, I placed my hands on my hips and let it all wash over me. This was the moment, the one I had been unconsciously approaching for years. The realization that this wasn't just another disagreement. We were fundamentally broken. I reached for the duffel bag tucked in the corner and began packing. Not out of rage, not as some impulsive decision, but with a quiet clarity. I was finished. Not just with the argument. With all of it, the marriage, the constant cycle of being dismissed and manipulated. From the living room, Emily's voice called out, "Are you seriously packing right now?" I continued folding my clothes. "Yeah." There was a pause, then the sound of her footsteps approaching. She stood in the doorway, arms folded across her chest. "So that's it? You're just going to leave?" I met her eyes. "Yes, I am." She scoffed. "Wow, you're seriously going to throw everything away over one lousy prank?" I exhaled, shaking my head. "This isn't just about that video. It's about everything that came before it. The way you treat me, how you disregard my feelings, how you constantly test my limits to see how far I'll bend before I break." Rolling her eyes, she said, "You're being ridiculously dramatic." I zipped the bag closed. "No, I'm just finished." For the first time, A flicker of something real passed across her face. Panic. Wait, she said quickly, stepping forward. Okay. I get that you're angry. I understand I might have gone too far. But we can talk this through. I swung the bag over my shoulder. We already talked. And all you did was avoid responsibility, make excuses, and act like I was crazy for feeling hurt. She swallowed, her voice quieter. I didn't mean to, but you did. I cut in, my tone soft yet unwavering. That's the issue right there. You always say you don't mean to, but you keep doing it regardless. And it only matters to you when you realize I might actually walk away. Her mouth opened slightly, as if to respond, but no sound came. For the first time since we'd been together, she seemed genuinely lost for words. Without waiting, I moved toward the door. She came after me. So this is it? She asked again, her voice now thinner, filled with a growing desperation. You're just walking away from everything? I stopped and turned to her one final time. No, Emily. For once, I'm making a choice for myself, something I haven't done in years. With that, I stepped outside. Leaving wasn't easy, but it was the most empowering decision I had ever made. In the beginning, Emily tried to act like none of it affected her. I received messages like, Emily, hope the dramatic exit is everything you hoped for. Or, Emily, you'll come back once you realize how absurd you're being. But as my silence continued, the tone of her texts began to shift. Emily, can we please talk? Emily, I never wanted things to get this bad. Emily, please just come home. We can work this out. I never answered. Instead, I moved in with my sister for a time, focusing on putting myself back together. I needed to remember how it felt to have my voice heard, to be respected, and to live without constantly having to defend why my emotions mattered. The months went by, and eventually her messages stopped altogether. Then, one day, the final text arrived, the last thing I would ever hear from her. Emily, I guess you're really not coming back. She was right. I wasn't. I had finally realized how much I was worth. And that realization felt incredibly good.